Now we will move on to the second important section of our lesson, the different facets of change. Facet means, let us say, phase. Okay, phase, it means phase. Okay, how the changes took place. Now, what exactly happened between 1300 to 1750 CE Common Era? Okay, so how this change took place? This change took place in three important ways, we can say. Right. The first one is by trade and urbanization. Now, what do you mean by trade and urbanization? Trade means commerce. You know, being a merchant, you go from place to place and you try to sell your product. That's the trade, right? So during this period, at the dawn of the modern period or at the later Middle Ages, during this period, trade expanded rapidly between Europe and North Africa. In the beginning, the trade was between Europe and North Africa. So actually, Africa is close to Europe, right? And the North Africa is very close to Europe. So it is a Mediterranean Sea that divides the African continent from the European continent. So that Mediterranean Sea is not very large sea. You can very easily cross over, and therefore it's how they were doing the trade. Okay, now what happened as the trade began to expand, the commerce expanded within countries as well, with the different kinds of goods being traded. What happened since the trade was booming, it created a lot of new cities. So usually, take for example, Bodha. No, let's say Bodha. Now here we find there are many people who are coming inside a small village. Okay, so what they want to do, so they want to come, they want to sell their product. Okay, so whatever you need, everything will be available here because people are coming here. They make Bodha as a kind of center. Okay, so now we are situated at the state highway, and therefore it's very easy for people to gather, to travel from Bagicha and from Patoli or from even Ambikapur. Okay, so it's very easy to gather in a place where everyone can gather, come together, assemble. So what happens now? People come here, people sell their goods, so the trade expands. As the trade expands, what happens? People also begin to settle down here in a place uh, which offers lots of commodities, lots of conveniences. There is a school, no, or there's a school and there's a college, and you have factories. Okay, and we have every other ways in which you can sustain your life here in Bodha. Okay, so what happens now? We have new city. So slowly, small new cities are born. Okay, now what happens as new cities are born? We also have got new ideas. When people come when people come from different background, cultural background, religious background, what they do, they bring their own ideologies to the place where they are going. So there is a mutual sharing. Okay, so cities are the place of sharing of ideas, of goods. Okay, now when we say trade, it's not only the goods that people are sharing with each other, they also share their own ideologies. So then if two new ideologies are brought in, then we have the emergence of the new ideology, new ideas. Just take for example the biryani. I think once I gave the example of biryani. Okay, so in biryani we have so many spice, everything we have. Like we have rice, we have, and then we have different kinds of vegetables, and we have got different kinds of spices and so on. Okay, so they make up one new dish called biryani. But even that biryani is actually the combination of other individual dishes, like rice is there. Okay, and we also have got spice and vegetables. Okay, so these individual dishes, individual ideas, when they come together, we have a new dish. Okay, we have new ideas. The same thing that takes place here. So new cities were born and older cities expanded. So the city that was already old, it expanded, and the city and and the city that was not yet born, okay, now it is born, because people begin assembling there. Okay, so this urbanization that we call as urbanization. So uh, mm, the life in cities, or the beginning of life in cities, is what we call as urbanization. So now if we say, Bodha is slowly it is growing, it is developing, means slowly Bodha goes towards urbanization, no, from village to town, from town to city. Okay, so like that, if it grows, then we call that process as urbanization. So urbanization is a process from village to town, town to city. Okay, that's urbanization. This urbanization brought with it many changes. When we have city, there are so many changes. We have a new class of wealthy merchant emerged. So here, very important thing that we have here in this urbanization is the new class, that is a middle class. Okay, the new class of wealthy merchant, usually people uh, who are involved in the business. Okay, so in trade, they are actually, they are wealthy. Okay, they are rich people, and therefore this new class of wealthy merchant, they emerge because of the trade, because of the commerce and so on, right? People traveled more between cities, leading to an exchange and spread of new ideas. As I told you, people travel. Okay, now see, I am coming from the southern part of India. So when I come into the northern part, I come with my own ideas from the southern part of India, and what I do, I try to share with you my own ideas. So what do you do? Some of the ideas that I share with you, you really like them, and you take them. Okay, and not only you take them, you also give in your own opinion a change. You also give a change for that idea, and there is a new idea born. The same thing is happening here. There was one striking difference between cities of India and Europe. Okay, now see, we are talking about urbanization and trade in Europe. Okay, but there is the same thing happened in our own country too, but there is one difference. What is the difference? Many of the cities in Europe were not ruled by kings. That's the difference. So many of the cities in Europe, they were not ruled by kings, whereas in India, it is another case. Now India, any place that was so rich and so on, it was ruled by the king. It was ruled by king, and it was a king who was a very rich people, very rich person. Okay, now whereas in Europe, if you take Europe, these wealthy cities, they were ruled by their own organizations, found by the merchants and artisans. Just like, if you notice the history of how the British people colonized India, you would know. Okay, so they came here as a merchant, as a businessman, and they set up their own central centers here and there. Okay, and when that center slowly it was expanding, what happened? They started their own organization called East India Company, and that East India Company was controlling the cities. It wasn't one person, but it's an organization. So that's how slowly it the change takes. Okay, now the second important facet of change is centralized states. So we see centralized means to hold everything into one. In the beginning, we see that the kings, they usually form part of this centralized scheme. Okay, so this was a time when many powerful kingdoms were established. So usually when there are economic activities, that place will also be a center of power. And what happens? People who are so powerful, even the wealthy merchant, uh, they can muster courage, they can muster their own armies, and they can take the control of the whole cities. Okay, so it is a time that we find the emergence of the new kingdoms, right? For example, in India we had Vijayanagara Empire, and then the Mughal dynasty, and the same thing happens in Iran also. Okay, and then there were many strong kingdoms established in France, Spain, England as well, especially during this time of uh, uh, the early modern age. So what happens? So these kings who established their own kingdoms in these economically powerful states or cities, these kings were very ambitious, which means they always wanted to acquire acquire means to gather wealth, to be very powerful, very ambitious, with a lot of ambitions, aim. So they kept a tight control on their power over the kingdom. As a result, what happened? Now they had all their wealth, they had power over all the wealth and an authority. Okay, so what happened? All this wealth, all this authority, it concentrated on one person, the king. So what happened? Now that slowly these people who were so wealth once upon a time, this wealthy merchant, they also came under these kings. So before the establishment of the kingdom, there were feudal lords. One wealthy person will control a village. One wealthy person will control a small town. Okay, so that those people, we call them as feudal lords. So after the establishment of the kingdom, the zamindars in our own term, or the feudal lords in the European term, they used to rule over their lands and estates and govern their subjects. Now what happened after the establishment of the kingdoms? What happened? Their powers were curtailed, which means limited and completely taken over. Okay, so that's how we find the emergence of the new kings. So, new kings, they impose heavy tax on these people and on these feudal lords, on these people. So what happened? Now their power was slowly it was diminishing. You see how the new ideas, they come together, even they can form very powerful kingdom, they can establish kingdoms. Okay, and a third important phase of change that we find here is the emergence of the urban middle class. This is very important. Urban middle class. Now it's not the middle class that we talk about in India. In India we don't have any middle class. Almost many of us are poor, even though we say people who earn and then no who are living in quite comfortable places, or who are living in quite decent homes, they are middle class. No, it is not how we define people as a middle class. Okay, but in India we have different ways of defining people as a rich people, middle class people, and poor people. Okay, but the whole standard of the modern society, it doesn't give us any provision to call us as a middle class. We are only below the middle class. Okay, right. Now here we are going to talk about the middle class of the early modern period. So who are all these people who come under the middle class? Usually it was the traders, the businessmen, because they travel from one place to the other place. They establish their business centers. Okay, and then they also give enough and more opportunity for the town or the villages to grow. Okay, so we have the growth of the cities, and the centralization of all the authorities under the king led to one important change, that is the emergence of the new middle class in these countries. Okay, now usually this middle class consists of this group of people. They are mostly the merchants, or the rich artisans, or the accountants, or clerks, or lawyers, or the professional artists. All these people, they come under the middle class. Mostly these people, they work under the kings. Okay, and it is these people who make up the urbanization, the urban societies. Okay, so these people doing these jobs became part of the middle class, and this class was always trying to earn more money. Their main aim was to trade and then earn more money. So there was a constant movement of these people across large geographical area. So these people were always in movement. They were moving from one place to the other place to set up their trade center, their business center, and so on. And therefore, this experience of moving from one place to the other place, this wide exposure, made the middle class look at everything that happens around them with a more critical eye. This is very, very important. When you travel from one place to another place, when you journey a lot, you will have a different idea of the world. You will have a different idea of the society. Okay, so what happened, these people, since they had a chance to move from one place to the other place, from one town to the another town, or from one state to the another state, what happened, they had their rich experiences with them. Therefore, whatever things that doesn't go well with reason and so on, these people, they looked them at, they they never they critically looked at everything that was happening around them. So these people were not, they were not really afraid of criticizing their religious leaders or their rulers, because they are all educated people. So education played a very big role in shaping them. Now, education is not only reading your books. It's very, very important to read your book for the academic qualification. Okay, but education is much more than that. You travel to many places, you learn good things, and you try to distinguish between which one is good and which one is bad. Okay, you should be able to differentiate between good and bad. Okay, and you need to make your habits more decent and so on. So that's how your education plays a vital role. So the same thing happens to these people. To be educated was not just becoming literate. See, mostly, for us, education means, very often we consider education as a kind of literacy. It's not only being literate, being able to read and write. It is much more than that. It should make you it should help you to make decisions in your life. That's education. Okay, so to be educated was not just becoming literate. People needed to have a wide grasp of literary knowledge to perform their jobs very well. So whatever you learn, you must make use of them to do better, your job better. So in Europe, the education means studying Greek and Latin classics. In India, it means studying Persian and Sanskrit classics. So there was also wide exchange of knowledge. The Greek texts of so when people study Greek and Latin, usually what they do, they also study about the ancient scripts, ancient texts, like the Greek texts of Aristotle and Plato. Okay, and then the Indian classics such as Panchatantra or mathematical treatise. Okay, so all these things were slowly translated into the local languages. That is the aim of the education. So people who learn Greek and Latin, what they actually did, after learning the language, they went through all the original texts and they tried to translate them into their own mother tongue, so that all can be profited from it. That is the main aim of education. And you study Sanskrit, okay, and you are well versed in Sanskrit. So what do? It's not just to speak Sanskrit or write Sanskrit. No, you study the classics there in Sanskrit, the classical writings, and what do? You try to translate them, or you try to write a commentary on them, so that other people can read, other people can be educated. That's the main point of education here. Okay, though there were many similarities between middle class in Europe and India, some important differences need to be noted. In a way, there are also differences between similarity and differences between the middle classes in Europe and India, but still there are differences which we should note. In India, in the middle class, we usually find people of these castes. Okay, Shayasta, Kshatriya, and Brahmin. Only these people, they made the middle class. Whereas in Europe, it's not based on their caste. They don't have any caste system. Okay, the middle class in Europe is based on their qualification, their education, right? The second important difference was that the middle class in India showed no special interest in science and mathematics. Unfortunately, the middle classes in India, they never showed any importance to science and mathematics, whereas in Europe it was the other way around. most of the scientists, they were all from the middle class. They were all traveling everywhere. You know, if you look into the biography of a scientist, usually you will find him emerging from a humble background. His father would have been a trader, or he would have been traveling from one place to the other place, and as a young child he would have traveled with his father. Okay, that's how he gets his knowledge. Okay, so that's the difference. So difference between the middle class in Europe and in India. Okay, the first difference is that in India only particular caste, they were under the middle class. Okay, the first difference is that in India only a specific caste group, they were the middle class, like, you know, Shasta, Kshatriya and Brahmin. Okay, whereas in Europe, anyone who is educated are part of the middle class, right? Second important difference of the middle class mm, between Europe and India is that in India, the middle class never ever showed any interest in the knowledge of science and mathematics, whereas in Europe, all those who are from middle class, they showed a lot of interest in scientific and mathematical understanding of the reality, because they know, they travel, they earn. Okay, and they also try to improve their ideas. Okay, so that is a change that we find here. Okay, so with that we complete these three important facets of change. Okay, so as you listen, kindly read them, you will be able to understand. Now we will move on to the third important section, that is the Renaissance, in the next part of the video. Thank you.